How's everyone doing out there in my village? Y'all know who I am. This is Judge with the Cosmic Answer LLC. And I want to just thank everyone for the outpour of reactions to my post on Facebook about Jupiter representing how you should raise your children. Your child's moon is how they turn out being raised. And in case you're new to this, please like and subscribe to the Cosmic Answer LLC so I can continue to bring you more information about Jyotish, the cosmos, and how to plus you being the most interesting person in the world. Now, because of the reactions I got, it's only fitting that I make a video discussing it in better detail. So yeah, like I said, Jupiter is the Karaka for children. Regardless of what your fifth house lord is, or if you're using Gemini, which is the Putra Karaka, Jupiter is definitely the significator of children. And in a woman's chart, it's the significator of the husband. I want all of you to know, you don't necessarily have to follow after someone else. Your natal chart tells you everything you need to know how to handle your life on this earth. Now, when it comes to Jyotish, Vedic astrology, the art and science of light, I don't want you to focus so much on your lagna or your rising or your ascendant. Everything about Vedic astrology is highly moon-based because the moon is the mind. The moon is your upbringing through your mother, the womb. And the same thing that applies with certain planets in your chart. When I mention Jupiter, you have to really understand that planet is trying to teach, expand, and grant abundance and blessings in children and the type of rituals you should follow. So when I mentioned Jupiter will show you how to raise your children, it means just that. I didn't mention the fifth house lord on purpose. I didn't mention the Putra Karaka on purpose. I want you to just focus on the planet because there's a lot of people out here, or the Jatak, which is native, that don't know the time of their birth. But if we could just meet them halfway and just tell them what a particular planet means, do you know how much that would help the masses? And not knocking for the people that know their time of birth. That's a plus. But everybody should know something until they find their time of birth. So when I mention your Jupiter, isn't that easier for everybody to understand? Just where's your Jupiter? So let's just point out in the sign. We're going to start with Aries. Aries is the beginning. And I'm going to make it very simple for all of you. When you think of Aries, what do you see? What do you see? Let's just use the zodiacal stereotype, for example. Aries is the ram. To help you understand if you have Jupiter in Aries, how to raise your children, you can easily Google up sheep, rams, male sheep. How do rams or sheep raise their children? This is what Jupiter wants you to understand about your own. You put Jupiter in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. It's about leadership. It's about taking charge. It's about making the initiative. If you have male children, you best believe you're raising them to be in command of something. Sports, martial arts, engineering, contracts. You lure your children in the path of leadership and doing their own thing. If you have a daughter and you have Jupiter in Aries, she's going to become a manager. She is. She has to be in that position. She has to be the first one to step in line that says, I'll go first. Do not raise your children to be followers, Jupiter in Aries. You put them forth and teach them to take a command of such. Put them in a sport. Tell them to raise their hand first. If you have Jupiter in Aries, you have to raise your children to be leaders. Even if the Jupiter is retrograde, you may become reluctant or hesitant, but I will go more into retrogression in the comments, or if you have questions, if you need a personal reading. But just Jupiter in itself in Aries, teach your children to be go-getters. Now, we're moving on to Jupiter in Taurus. So, this is an earth sign. Jupiter doesn't like earth signs. The reason why, because it is in no position to be optimistic. Earth signs are very solid, and you got to work and till the land. That's not what Jupiter's about. Jupiter's about expansion and motivation, spiritual beliefs, and travel. So if you have Jupiter in Taurus, learn to teach your children about the meaning of stability. Don't be so quick to go out into the world and start something, because Jupiter here is in the rulership of its rival, Venus. So the things you want to teach Jupiter, no, the things you want to teach your children with Jupiter in Taurus, the children may go their own way somewhere else. My advice to you, again, think of the animal that represents Taurus, the bull. I live in Texas, so I know how cattle are raised. I have 2 older brothers that raise cattle. My father was on a farm. I want you to think of cattle when it comes to raising children with your Jupiter and Taurus. It's like a livestock. They stick together. They stay around in a herd. If you have more than one child, raise them together. Get them to know one another. Do not create a rivalry between your children, because bulls become very stubborn and adamant in their ways. Your children are also protective of their environment. So if you have Jupiter in Taurus, they're going to be economically sound. They're always thinking about food. Always prepare their meals and teach them that meals are essential to their existence, because your children are going to grow up strong, sturdy, robust man or woman, and they're no strangers to certain meals. They love family. These Jupiter and Taurus. Raise them around an environment to where they see other cattle or a bull. They are to be relied upon, because there's one bull in a flock of heifers. So if you have a daughter or a son, raise them to know how important they are to those around them. That will boost their self-esteem, and it'll make your life easier raising your children. Now with Jupiter in Gemini, now Jupiter likes air signs. In a way, no, because all the air signs are ruled by either a neutral or its enemies. Jupiter is an enemy to Mercury, because Gemini rules this sign. I want you to pay attention. If you have Jupiter in Gemini, there's going to be a child. You may have 2, 3, or 4, but there's going to be a particular child in your life that's going to live vicariously through you. Because think of Gemini. What's the symbol of Gemini? I always go to that. They're twins. You are going to have children or a child that's going to emulate everything that you do. You are going to be this child's prizing role model. You have Jupiter in Gemini, you're going to have this son or this daughter that looks just like you, acts just like you, and want to do everything that you've done. They love hearing your childhood stories. So if you tell them, when I was your age, they're going to do exactly that. They're going to say, well, I was doing that at my current age too, Mom and Dad. So think of the twins when you have Jupiter in Gemini. It's going to be easy for you. Don't stress yourself out if you have this placement. Just know that your children are going to be on your hip and do exactly what you done when you was a child. Now we're going to where Jupiter is exalted. Jupiter in Cancer. This naturally relates to the 4th house and your moon. So if you have children and you have Jupiter in Cancer, they will never lack. They will never want for anything. And if you're their father, they would think, were you raised by your mom? No, if you are a father and you have Jupiter in Cancer, they're going to think you are the greatest father that ever lived. But let's stay on topic here. Cancer is the crab. Again, think of the animal element that represents that sign. How do crabs adapt and raise their children? All of the babies are on their back on a hard concrete surface. And the crab is always ready to guard and protect their young. If you have Jupiter in Cancer, my advice to you, do not let your children have this independent mindset to where they have to be out of the house at 18. At least in my culture, it says that you're an adult at 18. No, a crab will release their youth when they're ready. Because there's a reason why they have a lot of crabs. Predators are out to consume them. So it's like a gamble when it comes to having Jupiter in Cancer. If you have multiple children, if you let them leave early, something will happen. But then you will have to rely on the ones that are remaining. So with Jupiter in Cancer, you're exalted. You have all of the abundance of resources that your child needs to not steer or go anywhere. Because the crab has everything her hatchlings need. Same thing with the parents. If you have Jupiter in Cancer, keep them as long as they are nourished. There is no rush to get your children out of the house because crabs are slow and methodical. Same thing with you with rearing your children. Now let's go to the fifth sign, which is Simha, or the lion, Leo. Jupiter is friendly to this sign because the sun rules it. And the Jupiter works very well in fire signs. This is the fifth sign, which has a lot to do with creativity and self-expression. Any planet in Leo, you're going to be dynamic in expression because the lions are brave. They're forthcoming and proud. So if you have Jupiter in Leo, you're going to raise your children like a pride of lions. You do not want your children to leave the pride or to leave your home until they are strong enough to lead their own pride. For example, a lioness will have her cubs by the leader of the pride, but she will not release her cubs until they are able-bodied. If you have Jupiter in Leo, I would not recommend anyone else raising your children. I don't care if you had a bad relationship with the mother or the father. Do not bring in any step parents because you have Jupiter in Leo. That lion, the male lion, will reject or fight or war with that child because that's not his cub. Again, a lot of people are raised in single parent households. I want you to know, if you are a single parent and you have this child, if the relationship is bad with the father, do not speak ill will of him or do not speak ill will of her. Just know that you represent, this is your pride, because that child is going to always take pride in who their parent is if you have Jupiter in Leo. Follow me on that. Take pride in who you have children by, because that cub or that child is going to grow up emulating the king of that pride. All right? This is a very important if you have Jupiter in Leo and if you're in a two-parent household, you do not want your male child to leave until their father says he's ready. He's ready to lead his own pride. Do not send your children out until they are ready. Now let's go to Jupiter in Virgo. What do you think of when you hear Virgo? Think of a virgin, think of analytics, medicine, all those things. You put Jupiter in the meticulous perfectionist sign. Again, think of what represents Virgo. It's a young maiden on a boat with a sheaf of hay in her hand and other produce. A virgin is about preparation or getting ready for a marriage. You have Jupiter in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. And again, Mercury and Jupiter have this relationship to where it's very complex. Jupiter doesn't have time to organize and to create an environment to where you have to fix things. Jupiter just wants to expand. This is what you have to do with your children. You have to be prepared. Prepare them for something. If you have Jupiter in Virgo, your children should not be having a lot of fun. You're going to have to raise them to be managers, doctors, nurses, engineers, community organizers, all of those things, because this world needs a fixer-upper. This is what your children are supposed to do. I hate to tell you that your children will not have a pleasant childhood, because you're supposed to be on them like helicopter parents. You got to let them know this world will not be easy for everybody. There's going to be some goof-offs, some people of complacency, and a bunch of ne'er-do-wells that they have to clean up the mess for. But your children will succeed if you follow your Jupiter and raise them the right way. Raise them to be community organizers, managers, responsible leaders. Because this world could be very irresponsible, and they need your children to guide them. Some people just don't know what's for their own good, but your children will. Let's go to Jupiter in Libra, the sign of balance and justice. Again, Jupiter is in another sign of an enemy, Venus. It's his rival when it comes to teaching. You put Jupiter here, it's all about finding balance and justice, but you got to think of what represents Libra. It's a woman of liberty holding the scales, or just the scales by itself. It's time to raise your children to be fair. It's not about what's black and white. It's what is just. If you raise your children in an environment to know what's right and what's wrong, you're going to do just fine. I don't want you to think, if you have Jupiter in Libra and you're in a fight with your husband or your wife, this is going to occur a lot, because your environment is teaching them who's right and who's wrong, because your children are going to be listening in that door, hearing mommy, hearing daddy fight. It could be over bills, it could be over work, it could be over your own personal intimacy, it could be over, I don't want your father at our house, or I don't want your mother in my business. Your children are going to hear every single detail that goes on between the two of you. And if you have Jupiter in Libra and you're single, those kids are going to decipher what's wrong with mom, what's wrong with dad. Is there anything I can do to help? I don't think this is right. So your children are going to become little community activists, or they're going to be around their peers and thinking, that's not fair, you're talking about your dad. That's not fair, you're talking about your mom. Because they know what it's like to feel mistreated just by hearing you out parents. So with Jupiter in Libra, teach your children to be fair, think down the middle, and always seeing other people's side. They got to know what it's like to be in others' shoes. Now we're going to Jupiter in Scorpio. If you have Jupiter in Scorpio, this is ruled by Mars, which is a friend to Jupiter. Jupiter wants to teach Mars the perfect strategy to winning a war. And the Mars will listen to anyone that gives him a better strategy. Now, again, think of the creature or the symbol of Scorpio, which is the scorpion. Scorpions are gentle creatures, believe it or not. They don't go looking for trouble. But trouble comes to them, because look at a scorpion. They look treacherous. They look strong. They appear ready for combat. But believe it or not, scorpions don't want the drama. They don't want any smoke. But look at them. They're designed for that smoke. A scorpion is ready to fight when it has to. Look at its claws. Look at its anatomy. And I don't even need to mention the tail. When you back a scorpion into a corner, you asked for it. You definitely asked for it. If you got a scorpion bite or a scorpion death grip, it's because its assailant wanted to smoke. This is what we say in the West. So I want you to raise your children just like that. Your children are going to come off beautiful, strong, majestic, and uncanny. And people are just going to naturally have this jealousy for yours. My advice to you with people with Jupiter in Scorpio, raise your children to learn self-defense. Yeah, I said it. Teach your children how to fight. Remember, Mars rules Scorpio. It's the feminine side of Mars. Your children are just going to come off very alluring. And teach your children that rejecting somebody is okay. You don't have to accept everybody. And if they come at your children a certain way, just know a scorpion naturally has venom inside them for a reason. And when it comes to raising Scorpio children, just like I said with the crab, they raise their babies on their back, ready to protect them. I'm not saying isolate your children, but just know your children are going to be isolated regardless of where they are, because it's naturally the 8th house of power, rejection, transformation, and rebirth. Your children are going to become very transformative. So teach your children, don't accept the norm. It's the opposite of Taurus, which is stability. Prepare your children for chaotic events. They have to. Jupiter in Scorpio, that's my advice to you raising your children. Don't be ashamed of it. Believe me, it'll work. Now we're going to Jupiter's Mulatrikona. It's at home in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is about the sky's the limit, shooting for the stars, doing what you have to do. Pilgrimages, ceremonies, religious studies, post-grad educations, teachers, gurus, your father. If you have Jupiter in Sagittarius, teach your children to become Rhodes Scholars, great debaters, pioneers, see the world. Get your children a passport at birth. Get them a passport at birth, because they're going to go there and your life is geared to send them all across the world. They need to know many cultures. They need to know many creeds. They need to know I'm not the only one that's of this color, race, creed, or subculture. Get them children out in the world to see different places. It's going to expand their mind, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. Because this is what Jupiter's all about. Teach them. I would recommend, if you have a YouTube channel, have them to go watch a lot of videos on TED Talks, seminars. Les Brown. Les Brown is a good one. Who else? What's his name? I believe his name, Peterson. Something Peterson. I'm thinking of motivational speakers. Tony Robbins. Have them watch a lot of Les Brown and Tony Robbins videos. Raise your children to be speakers. Don't be ashamed of the mic. They have to be on the forefront, all right? Prepare them for this world, because they're going to be great pioneers and motivational speakers. All right, we're going to the 10th sign, Capricorn. You put Jupiter here, it's in the rulership of Saturn. It's the feminine side of Saturn. Capricorn has a lot to do with duties and achievements. If you have Jupiter in Capricorn, although it's debilitated here, remember, Jupiter doesn't like to work. Jupiter wants to teach and expand. But raise your child to be ready to perform governmental tasks. You chose that placement. That child chose you. Raise your child to be in some type of governmental position to where they have to help their countrymen. Yeah, Jupiter's debilitated here, but I'm making it what's easier for you, parents. Again, what's the symbol of Capricorn? The goat, and in some cultures, it's the alligator. So let's use these two for example. You have the goat. Goats are used to climbing things. They are. Goats are always climbing to the top because they want to see what's on the horizon. So when you have children, I would put them in a ranking system. Put them in martial arts. They need to know how it feels to achieve a black belt starting off at a white. If you put them in martial arts, they're going to see children that are ranked higher than them, and they're going to want to pursue that. But you're training them. This is Jupiter and Capricorn parents that got their children there. Raise them up to be a goat. And this is an abbreviation for greatest of all time. That's what they would become if you allow your children to do that. Now, with those that follow the alligator as the Capricorn symbol, how do alligators roam? They like to stay situated in an area that they are the best at. Alligators don't like to swarm a lot. They like to stick where I could be my best. You put an alligator in the swamp, they're going to stay there the rest of their life and get big and strong. So keep your children in an environment to where they can be big and strong. To where if there are other alligators coming in, I'm the alpha gator. It means I'm the largest, I'm the biggest, I'm the strongest. You're not going to conquer me. And that's a Jupiter in Capricorn. I'm going to achieve the highest position to where I can never be conquered. Now let's go to Jupiter in Aquarius. Let me just put it to you this way. If you have Jupiter in Aquarius, they're going to become a scientist. Raise your children in the abundance of knowledge, because the symbol of Aquarius is the knowledge bearer. I come bearing knowledge, and the pitcher of water that is pouring, that person isn't pouring out knowledge. There was a crack in the pitcher. That's what they don't tell you. Jupiter and Aquarius people have all of the knowledge because they've already learned everything from Sagittarius. They've already achieved everything from Capricorn. So they got everything at their exposure to keep to themselves. But it's only because there was a crack in that pitcher to where all that water was being poured. So the Aquarius said, screw it. Might as well pour all the knowledge. And they look at you as a humanitarian because you have the sources of all. That's Aquarius. Jupiter and Aquarius parents, raise those children to be know-it-alls. Know-it-alls. Because they have all of the knowledge. Science, spirituality. There's nothing beyond the reach that a child raised by Jupiter in Aquarius parents have at their disposal. So they're going to have to have a career in aerospace, HVAC, any type of vocation. They're going to excel at it. Have your children to learn so many vocations while they're young before they become legal age and leave. Because people are going to love their expertise. They're going to love how they troubleshoot things. And that's okay. They can have fun, but your children will be around a bunch of people to where they think are dumber than them because your children know so much. So Jupiter and Aquarius, teach them all that you know, and they're going to explore and do everything. People aren't going to like them because they know more than others, but that's okay. At least they know something, and they're going to become great humanitarian, winning Nobel Peace Awards, Pulitzer Prizes, and humanitarian awards. And now we're down to Jupiter's other ownership, the final sign, which is Pisces, the Meena Rashi. This is the house of tranquility, moksha, relaxation, and the bed. If you have Jupiter in Sagittarius, in Pisces, again, think of the symbol. It's two fish. It's fish. Think of how fish are raised. They're always raised around in a school of fish. You have Jupiter in Pisces, raise your children identically. Let's just say your children are like 2 years apart, 3 years apart. Raise them exactly how you raised your first child and your second child, and so on and so forth. They're all going to come out differently anyway, because the child's natal moon determines how they were raised. Although in a parent's chart, they're all raised the exact same way because it's the exact same parent, but you're at a different age and stage when you raise each of your child. So if you are a mommy watching, let's say you had your first child when you were a teenager. I had my child at 17 years old. All right? Your 17-year mentality is a lot different from when you had your third or your fifth child in your early or mid-30s, but you're still the same person. But one thing I want you to understand, do not change how you raise the sequential children. If you stick to how fish raise their children, it'll work for you. Again, they have the same mommy, but a different maturation of that mommy. If you're a dad and you have Jupiter in Pisces, the same rule works for you. Let's say, for instance, you're a dad. Whoever your wife or your girlfriend was, or whoever you was just kicking it with, had your child when you were, let's just say, 22. Whatever situation you were in, you treat that child as if you was a married, established man in a household with your wife and children, and raise that child the exact same way and watch the outcome. because your children are going to look at the elder child and see how their life was. And they're going to always look up to them, because children that are raised by parents with Jupiter and Pisces are relaxed. They're cool. So don't change your method, regardless of your age when you had that child. It's like a school of fish. They're all going to follow after each other. So my village, that's the simple way of raising your children. Just look where your Jupiter is. If you have questions about, well, what if it's in the second house or the third house? Think of the parallels of the signs to the houses, whereas Taurus is acting to the second, or Scorpio is acting to the eighth, or Libra is acting to the seventh. Look at it that way. And we could go more in details about that if you need a reading, or if you need to contact me directly, do my DMs. All of the links are below. So this is Judge signing out with the Cosmic Answer LLC. Be blessed, everyone, and until next time.